Welcome to On the Spot, the show where we put Toowoomba businesses on the spot. Your host for today is Barry Knights. So with today's business, Barry, it's over to you.
Thanks, Jeff. This is Barry, as Jeff told you. We are today looking at a really interesting topic. You would have noticed on the IT show, on Switched on IT, that we've been talking about some of the things that you can do in IT, and one of the things that's quite current is the Internet of Things. When I was growing up, the idea that you could print something was quite radical. Today, we not only print 2D things like this, we also are now able to print in 3D. It's quite amazing. I've got some samples here of 3D printing. Today I have a couple of really interesting guests with me. I've got Steve Lewis here with me. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
And I've also got Colin Hollier. Hello, Colin. Stephen, you are the owner of Reality 3D Printing.
That's right.
Correct? Tell me, what is Reality 3D Printing?
We have a small manufacturing shop, a CAD design, going ahead a little bit. So I've mostly had to teach myself how to do all that, but pick it up reasonably quickly. I did quite a bit of it in high school, so
right.
Picking it up isn't too hard. It's just getting used to the new current programs and finding the time to work all that out, but most of the time is spent manufacturing items. A lot of it can be found on the internet, mastering all the machines, learning how the technology works and how to avoid all the pitfalls.
Right. It sounds a bit like me. Sounds a bit like my story. Colin, you're involved in this venture too, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Yeah, tell me, what's your background? How did you get involved with this?
I owned many other companies in the past. I started with Black Tie Industries and it sold overseas, and I realised that I could put my skills to better use designing websites and advertisements for companies who want to get worldwide recognition. And it kind of was a changing point for me there, and I decided that I could put my IT skills to work rather than my hands and begin in a field that's worthwhile. And when I saw that there were prosthetics and even bone and skin prints, that it was something that I'd love to get into. I've always had a vast interest in the medical field. So,
right. Right. Okay.
For me.
Okay. So your background then comes from the technical aspects of the business.
Certainly. When I started my first businesses, I was not well off enough to actually pay IT designers, and
yeah, no, that goes.
Yeah, and it's quite tough like that. You look at a pretty big margin when it comes off your end of day total, and I thought I've got to learn this for myself. So I guess the total of that took me over 2 years, and with IT, it's such a big industry that you're learning as long as you stay in the field.
Yes,
it's something that will take a lifetime to become very proficient at.
Yes.
But,
Steve,
your background is quite different, isn't it?
Yeah, so I used to be a boilermaker straight out of high school. Done that for a while until I injured my back, and then wanted to find something that I could do as equally intricate, but from home.
Okay, but why 3D printing?
I'd had my eye on it since about Generation 1, Generation 2, some of the desktop machines, but they weren't quite to the point where it was simple enough for a total beginner to go into it and make it work for them.
Right.
Because the earlier generations required far too much tinkering and fine-tuning for it to actually work. It was far more up the alley of an engineer.
Right.
But by the time it got to around Generation 3, then it was pretty much perfect. As good as it was going to get, that's the way I saw it.
Okay.
And I jumped in on that and started learning from there.
Right. We've got some of the images behind us here of the sort of work that you do and your workshop. Tell us about the machines that you've got in here.
The primary ones I started off with was an Ultimaker 3. It's I think they're from the Netherlands, those machines. They're a little bit more upmarket, but they have a lot of the checks and balances that a beginner would really like to have.
Right.
You know, like self-leveling beds, heated bed. You can get a small advanced print kit which adds a heat shield.
Right.
So you can keep a more homogeneous environment for printing, so you don't have problems with the heat dissipating faster than it should, causing layer separations, delamination from the bed, and all sorts of problems like that. And another thing that attracted me to that machine was it has a dual extruder. Most 3D printers...
It has a what?
A dual extruder.
Okay, tell us what's a dual extruder.
Well, most machines only have a single extruder, which means they can only do a job with one material.
Oh, I see.
So it has a second extruder, but while other machines had 2 extruders at the same height, which is very, very hard to fine-tune within fractions of a millimetre, they decided to have the second extruder in a resting position sitting above the other extruder, and then it gets lowered down when it's needed with a mechanical switch.
Oh, right.
And the machine will actually move over to the side of the frame and lock a trigger into the side of the frame and flick its own switch to lower and raise the extruder as needed. So it eradicates a lot of the problems, and it's all handled by the machine.
Yes, yes.
So then you can make print jobs that have, say, 2 colours of the same material,
Okay.
or 2 totally different materials, like a support material and then a parent material.
Yeah.
So you can make advanced geometries and then remove the support material later.
Right.
And one of the materials they shipped with was PVA support material, which is polyvinyl alcohol, which is dissolvable in water.
Yes.
So you can have a support material in hard to get to places that you can just simply dissolve away once the print is done.
Oh, right. Okay. We've got some footage running behind us of going through your business, and there's quite a number of areas in there. Colin, you're sitting at a computer behind us. Just tell me, what do you actually do in this business?
Okay, for now I'm simply designing and propagating all of the web data, so I'm creating Google and Microsoft and the websites .com.au.business, and I'm also linking them and propagating them so that we can be found worldwide rather than just in Toowoomba or just in Queensland and so on. It's exciting to me to see how many people we can get out to. Because I think there's an absolute vast amount of things that we can do where people haven't been utilising 3D printing adequately yet. And that's where...
I guess a lot of people don't really know very much about it yet.
Well, that's it, and it's where I can see, you know, in the very short-term future, us being able to print dental moulds and replacement dentures, full bridges, crowns. We can also print, of course, limb replacement and actualised joints. So they'll respond in kind to the amount of force produced onto the joint. This gives an animal without a rear leg a chance to actually put spring into its step and have the limb itself act in kind with that, so they won't get too much or too little force.
Oh, right, okay. Now, you actually have a business of your own as well, don't you? It's called Exclaimers?
Exclamation IT.
Exclamation IT.
And
tell us about Exclamation IT.
We do both PC repairs, physical and software, and we also design websites and company fronts for people. Again, so that they can propagate across Queensland, Australia, the world. The design for that is all C++ coding. So it's quite extensive, and it requires a lot of patience to design that many sites for someone.
Yes.
It's something that I've learnt to enjoy and just take my time and be patient and meticulous. And I think if anyone aspires to get into coding, it's a worthwhile field, and it's something that'll keep you going for, 10 or 20 years if you really get into it.
Yeah. Now, Steve, all of these, we've got some examples of the things you've got here. All of these things start off as drawings, right?
Sort of. They start as a 3D model on a computer.
Okay, now who builds all of the models and things? Do you do that, or is that Colin's job?
No, a lot of these are found off a website called Thingiverse, where people all around the world design and create 3D models and they upload them. And then I can just download them, and they're covered under Creative Commons license, so I can mass produce them as much as I like. I'm allowed to make money off them, but I can't take credit for designing them.
Right.
That's the only stipulation under the Creative Commons license.
Yes. Do you create things from scratch? If somebody walked into you and said, I've got a need for this particular thing, can you design it? And you can from scratch. Okay.
I've modified my own GoPro mounts so I can take time-lapse footage inside the heat shield of my Ultimaker 3.
Oh, right.
And one of the larger markets I have these days is making custom moulds for soap makers.
For soap makers?
Yeah. Bath bombs and soaps, and they always want custom moulds. Some people want their logos in the mould, so every time they make an object, it's already got their logo imprinted in it.
Right, okay. Oh, very good. Okay, now Colin and Steve, we're going to take a break now. So we'll take a break. We'll be back after the break, and after the break I'm going to talk to Steve and Colin about some of the things, some of these items that we've got here, talking about what sort of things they make, and I'll let you have a little bit of a look at some of the things that are actually happening in the 3D printing area. So we'll see you after the break.
On the Spot, the show where we put Toowoomba businesses on the spot. Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at Computer Troubleshooters Toowoomba-West will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door and will get your problem solved in no time with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Well, can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters Toowoomba-West on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba-West.
Whether you're a professional musician, a weekend warrior, or just starting out, you need to talk to the experts at Royce Music. With over 35 years experience, Royce Toowoomba's oldest music store specialising in guitars, drums and sound equipment, and can even repair and maintain your equipment. Call them today on 46327 Drop into their showroom at 17 Bowen Street or find them on Facebook. Royce Music, selling Toowoomba's finest musical instruments.
Welcome back. You're on the Spot. I have Steve and Colin with me today from Reality 3D Printing. Steve, I was in your workshop the other day. Apart from Colin, you also have a young chap at the back doing some painting.
That's right.
We're looking at him now. And you employ him to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously these things don't start off this colour. He actually paints them, does he? Or?
These ones are all still the original colour they are printed at.
Right.
But some of the other stuff that we've been doing, we want to get that fine, professional painting job done.
Yeah.
And he's got a little project on the side now, making a Ripper, which is one of the weapons from Fallout 3,
right.
making it as realistic as possible.
Right.
Because once we get into props, we're going to need things to be and look realistic.
Yes, yes.
And one of the things we'll be getting soon is a high-grade airbrush, which he's very personally excited about. It'll make his job a lot faster, and he'll be able to be a lot more finicky, as much as he chooses.
Yeah, well,
I was the power in his hands.
I was watching him, and we've got some footage of him there. He's very meticulous with what he does, isn't he?
Yeah, that's why he's worth it.
Yes, yes. Cool.
You
All right.
tell him how you want something done, and he will do every necessary step to make it happen.
Yeah, terrific. That's the sort of work you need. Now, you had one of the machines going the other day. This cat now.
Yep.
This is a cat, not a CAD, right?
That's right. That's a low poly cat, and poly is short for polygon, meaning how many shapes make up an object.
Okay.
So this one's considered low poly because there's a low number of shapes that make it up.
Okay.
Like in early games, like GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, those were considered low poly because there was like under 100 polygons for a character model.
Right.
While
okay.
in current games, there's millions,
Right.
which is why they look so smooth and realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we've actually got footage of the machine that's made this, hasn't it?
Yep.
Tell us about the process of coming from the very beginnings of this to the product.
All right. Well, it starts on a filament reel on the back of the machine, which gets pulled through a feed extruder. I actually have a inline dust filter that I 3D printed up myself that cleans the dust off the
Right.
filament as it enters the machine, and then that goes through a Bowden tube, and then into a extruder, and the bottom of that is what they call the hot end,
Right.
which is very self-explanatory and keep your fingers away.
Yes.
I've burnt myself about 3 times now.
Oh, have you? Okay.
You end up stop trying. So.
Yes. Yes.
But the machine will start on the very bottom layer, this way up, and draw out the extremity, and then start essentially colouring in the bottom layer, and then it will do another 5 layers that way to give it a nice solid base, and then it will begin doing the infill, which is the substructure inside the hollow space, while
Right.
doing the walls as it goes up. So this does have an internal substructure, making it reasonably strong and break
Right.
preventative. And it allows it so when it gets up to a point in the geometry where there are no walls touching it, but it must start creating a roof, that it has something to build on.
Right.
Yes. So you don't have to make the object completely solid. You can make it as hollow as you like, but entirely hollow mostly doesn't work depending on your
Right.
shape. If you're making something like a hollow pyramid, that can print with no infill completely fine. Because
Right.
the walls continue up to the apex, and that's where it finishes.
Yeah.
But if you say try to print your own hand in that position, when it got to the webbings, it might have some trouble.
Oh, okay. I've got what's on the screen now. You're holding some really tiny little things in your hands. What are these?
Those were chess pieces from a Doctor Who chess set that someone else had modelled up, and I'd made some small modifications to allow a magnet to be inserted and glued into the bottom, so for a travel chess set,
Right.
so the pieces wouldn't fall off the board. And one of them, the silver one, is a FDM printed style, which is this style, which is the plastic welding, I guess, is the simplest way to explain it, while the
Right.
machine moves around, which has its own high points and accuracies, but it's not always the best.
All right.
And the darker grey one is an SLA, or resin printed one, using stereolithography, and that's a photoreactive polymer resin that hardens when it gets hit by ultraviolet laser or ultraviolet
okay.
light as well, so avoid doing it outside. Your machine will just turn to a brick.
Yes, right.
But the accuracy of those machines are absolutely phenomenal.
Right. Now, these things that we've just been talking about, they're really tiny. What's the range of sizes that you can print then? How big can you print something?
Well, with the FDM machines like these ones, my build space limits out at 8 inches by 8 inches by 12 inches high.
Okay.
And with the SLA machines, it's 145 mil on the X and Y and 175 mil in height.
Okay.
So just under 6 inches wide and 7 inches high.
Okay. Now, let's just talk for a minute about this thing here. Tell me about this. This is fascinating.
This is a fractal pyramid. It's a 3-dimensional representation of 6 to the power of 6. In total, in this, like the smallest pyramid is just here from my fingertip upwards.
Right.
and there are a total of 46,656 of these miniature pyramids inside it. If you look closely, you'll notice that the larger pyramid being the most of it, if you step down one scale, then this here is the next size pyramid.
Right.
And it needs 6 of those to propagate to the next size up. So you have 4 upright pyramids on the base, an upright pyramid on the top, and an upside down pyramid in the middle.
Right.
So it needs 6 pyramids to go to the next size up.
Okay.
So if you keep going down, like here's one pyramid, another size of pyramid, another size, another size, another size, and then your final tiny size there at the top.
Right.
So if it needs 6 per stage, and there's 6 different stages, it's 6 to the power of 6.
Right. Yep.
Now this was an interesting one to get to print because to make it work, I had to print it with no infill and extremely thin walls. Because as the machine goes around and does each layer, if you look at a cross-section of a single layer, it's a continuous line that goes all the way around the perimeter.
Right.
So the trick to make it work was make it only do that. If it stopped to go and make any other wall thicknesses, it would leave tiny little dags of plastic that had oozed out of the head.
Right.
So I had to tell the machine to make it with 0.4mm walls so it wouldn't bother trying to do anything else except the wall.
Right. Right.
And there's the final product. It came out very nice. It would be an absolute pain to clean if it ever got dirty.
Yes.
because of just the amount of surface area inside this thing.
Yeah. All right. Now, the other thing that I know that you do, and Colin, you have some input into this as well, I believe, is prosthetics. And we've got a prosthetic here. What is this? Tell us about this.
This is a 2-size replica of the prosthetic we made for Millie the Greyhound from New South Wales.
Right.
It was a puppy who lost one of her front legs, and it came to the attention of a friend of mine in Brisbane, Adrian from A2K, and he put the man who owned the dog in touch with Matthew McKnight from Autodesk, and Matthew McKnight, rallied a few people around to find a way to help Millie, and they got a vet to put a cast on Millie, and remove it and get it scanned, 3D scanned, and then from there they started modelling all the internal shapes that would fit around Millie's leg, and then modelled a prosthetic beyond that, and this is what they came up with. And they think this is version 4 of their prosthetic.
Right.
And they have some holes at the back for mounting Velcro straps to hold the front on. So as much as the dog moves around, it can't fall off.
Yeah.
And a little F on the front for Fusion 360, the program they use to make this. And it has a hole at the bottom where a bolt can be mounted.
Right.
And then a foot goes on the bottom of that, a rubberized bowl foot.
Right.
I believe the foot they end up using now was originally designed for the bottom of heavy machinery. But it works quite well, and Millie's quite attached to it now these days.
Or it's attached to Millie.
Yeah, that's right. Attached to each other.
Attached to each other, yes, there you go. I guess now Millie's a female cat, I guess, so she'll know that she's feline because she's got her F on the front there.
Greyhound.
A greyhound, right. Now, Colin, you have a particular interest in this prosthetics area as well, don't you?
I do, I certainly do.
Yeah, tell us about your interest in it. Where do you see this going?
Well, a lot of the prosthetic limbs that have been made for pets and individuals who have been unlucky enough to lose them have never been actuated, which is where the limb can actually bend and act as though it has a joint.
Right.
And that's where we come into it, through CAD modelling and design, and using hydraulic actuators. We'll be able to actually move the joint and design a smaller joint inside each cast.
Right.
And use a hydraulic setup so that when you've placed pressure against the tip or or your contact point,
Right.
it'll react in kind with the amount of pressure that it's being pressed with.
Right.
For more accurate scanning, we've been working with the RTEC digital scanner, and it uses advanced photogrammetry to define the mathematic quantifier for an object like this.
Oh, right.
So we're able to scan it while it's handheld, standing back, no moving table, no anything like that.
Okay.
And its programming allows it to account for any movement my hand makes up or down or side to side.
Right.
And then it digitally matches every single frame set and photo that it's taken into one object.
Right.
And because of the high resolution, it's able to get a very, very close match to what you're scanning.
Right.
This means that we can kind of forego a lot of the older processes of casting and actually get a very, very realistic scan straight away of an object or surface area to be moulded to.
Right.
It can possibly take the process from weeks down to just days or a day, depending on what our success is like.
Wow, that's interesting. And where do you see, in terms of prosthetics and so on, this is probably endless, is it?
It is. It is. I think that your application purposes are endless, and the need for it is absolutely high. A lot of the time when people are prototyping, they're making metal prototypes, and others when realistically they can go from an FDM or any other material that we are using straight to metal or straight to production.
Right.
Whereas years back you would have needed to test and test again and make sure before you would make a metal cast of something that you'd created. We can be sure straight away and know that ours is going to be within the tolerance of that's acceptable.
Yeah, terrific. Steve, where in the market are you in terms of this? Do you have a lot of? You're the only one in Toowoomba, I guess.
There are a handful of others, but I think we're the ones most on track. Some other people, it's a nighttime hobby, and
Right.
There's other people fluttering with the market, tinkering with it, but they don't really have a central drive to excel in the market, from what it seems to me.
Okay, all right. We're going to take another break now, and when we come back after the break, I want to talk to Steve about where this goes in the future, and perhaps Colin in terms of prosthetics, in where this goes in the future, and where they see their business going in the future. We'll take another break. We'll see you after the break.
Hi, this is Mick Jagger on
Classic Vinyl.
This is Debbie Harry from Blondie.
This is Jimmy Barnes here.
Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac.
This is Reverend Willie G from ZZ Top.
The best tracks from the greatest albums of our generation.
That's right.
From your breakfast and coffee to your drive home.
We've got the classic hits that make your workday.
When you got a job to do.
Go by a lot faster.
Hey, if we haven't said it lately, thanks for listening. The home of classic rock.
Don't touch the dial.
PowerFMRadio.com.au.
Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at Computer Troubleshooters Toowoomba-Based will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door and will get your problem solved in no time with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Well, can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters, Toowoomba-Based, on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba-Based.
Hi, I'm Neil from CGD Group, and we do printing with imagination.
Our products in imaging have that wow factor. Whether it be business cards, flyers, the Coffee Gazette, or our brand new A5 video folders and animation. Have your business branding remembered. Call us today on 4639 5553. CGD Group, printing with imagination.
Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. Steve, we've been talking about some of the things that this business does. It's all very interesting and very new. Probably not a lot of people have had a lot of exposure to it. Where do you see this sort of thing going in the future?
Well, it ranges from all sorts of things, from custom trinkets that people want to have made, like Monopoly pieces, chess sets, all the way up to prosthetics. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, say?
Probably in a tech park, half a dozen employees, making all sorts of prosthetics, manufacturing molds. You know, for all the various different markets, castings,
Yep.
all sorts of custom parts that mass manufacturing doesn't do well or doesn't bother catering to.
Do you see a time in the future where we will be driving cars that are produced on a 3D printer?
It wouldn't surprise me in the least. I've heard about a 3D printer that's available in the United States and Canada called I think it's the Extruder-Bot, or the Erector-Bot, I believe it was, where it's 40 foot wide, 40 foot high, and 60 foot long, and they're using it to 3D print caravans.
Caravan, well now there's a good idea, yeah.
And they just have a very wide head and a pellet feed extruder, and they just melt the plastic and start making entire shells.
And is it beyond the realms of possibility that we could live in houses printed with a 3D printer?
They're already doing that in Russia and China. 3D printing houses with concrete.
Printed with concrete?
Yeah. They have a gantry in a centralised system, and it spins around and extends its arm and lifts as it needs to and squirts concrete out of a tube, a rapid set concrete. And they're moving up about 1 inch per layer, and they have about half a dozen workers operating around the machine, putting the cabling in the walls and all the other various things that the machine can't do, all while it's operating.
Right.
And there was a story out last year where they'd made one in 1 day for $10,000. An entire house printed in 1 day.
Wow. Colin, your input into this, this is not just local business, is it? This has worldwide implications.
It certainly does, especially for manufacturing and design. Any engineer will know right away what they're looking at is something special, because we can create so accurately that hundreds and hundreds of man hours can be foregone for a perfect product, you know, within literally hours. Also, we can, rather than, you know, putting in the hard work and designing things by hand, we can effectively design a new hinge or a new holder or bracket, a new house brick, a new retaining wall,
right,
and test it before you make the first replica that is usable, so that you know that what you've designed works properly before you go patent pending or copywriting an item. It's always worthwhile looking at how much it's going to weigh in plastic and seeing if somebody's willing to produce it for you. This way you can be absolutely sure that your design has no flaws before you go to all the effort of putting it forward to a committee.
Right. Now, Colin, you've been involved in a number of businesses. Tell me, if you had somebody that was starting out in business and needed to know what are the pitfalls for business, what would you tell them?
There are many. No matter how rushed you feel, try to be patient and think about every decision that you are going to make. If you're not confident, think and think again. And above all else, be very patient. Don't rush into anything. Make sure that you feel as though it's going to be the right thing. You do need to, you know, form actions as a businessman, no matter what, and that's what they call taking risk. All of us do it when we go forth in a new venture. But it's getting the most calculated risk that you can, so that your percentage or your acceptable margin for failure is as low as possible before you begin, and so that you have as much industry knowledge as you can before you begin. I guess I could attribute to my successes over the years not only a lot of hard work, but absolutely failing. I have, every single year, Barry, I've put forth 15 businesses and 15 good ideas, and out of those, 14 of them fail every time, sometimes 15.
No.
You know, and then you get your lucky ones that are just a great idea that the world wants at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other bit of advice I would give is be willing to fail greatly, or in spectacular fashion, because sometimes you are going to wind up with your bum on the concrete, and it's where you've just got to look forward and go, this is acceptable because it's taught me something. You know.
Yes, and probably if you went to a university to learn all of the things that you'll learn out of your mistakes, it would cost you an absolute fortune anyway.
Oh yeah, and you'd be there for a lifetime.
Yes.
I think that's the thing, is every mistake that you make puts you one step closer to your goal, including successes. Both are equally virtuous to a degree, purely because if you haven't failed, you know, in some kind of spectacular fashion, well, you're missing out on a lot of points that could be your downfalls.
Yeah, and the truth is, if you haven't failed somewhere, you're probably not trying very hard.
That's correct. That's very correct.
Okay. Steve, what would you say to young entrepreneurs out there?
Double check everything and make sure that you're happy with what you're doing before you do it.
Right. Okay. That's good advice too.
Yeah.
Terrific. All right, now we're going to wrap the show up here. I've been with Stephen Lewis from Reality 3D Printing and with Colin Hoyer, and we have been talking today about 3D printing. This is a Toowoomba business. This is really exciting to have a business that is on the world stage. Here in Toowoomba is really exciting. We've got lots of exciting things happening here in Toowoomba. So today, thank you for your time, Steve. It's been nice talking to you.
You too, thank you.
And Colin, thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you
now,
for your time.
Before we go, Steve, if somebody wants to contact you and find out more about 3D printing, where do they get hold of you?
All the listings are available through Google. They're available through Bing, TrueLocal, and many other websites across the internet. If you can't find it on one, try another one. You'll probably find it on before your third try.
Okay, so
Colin's putting them everywhere he can think of.
Okay, so where, what do they need to put into Google, say, to find you? Just
3D printing Toowoomba, that should be easily enough, or just search the business itself, Reality 3D Printing, and I guarantee you'll find it in under a minute.
Okay, that's terrific.
And, if you'd like to email directly, you can email realityprinting@gmail.com. This way you can give Steve or myself any of your questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Terrific.
That's right, contact us directly.
And can they call you by phone?
They certainly can.
What's your phone number?
The business line is 0413 941 932. And I only ask that you don't call after 6 p.m.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's terrific. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This has been Barry for On the Spot. Thank you for your company. We'll see you again next time.
Looking for exposure for your business or event? Take your business, community event, training seminar, sports fixture, function, concert or exhibition to the world with Power TV Australia and Power FM's unique live outside simulcasts. We can turn your next local event into a worldwide sensation with stunning live pictures, interviews, graphics and live action replays for a fraction of the usual cost. From a festival or sports fixtures to a corporate or charity event, Power TV Australia and Power FM can take your message live to our local and national viewers and listeners. Invite the world to your party by contacting Barry today on 0431 390 920 or email programming@powertvaustralia.com for a quote.